So we've come back for an episode where we've only actually played one fixture since the last. The reason that we've come back is that big things have been going on behind the scenes and we're putting you in charge. So there's going to be a bit of a topsy-turvy nature to this episode. We're going to begin with our fixture first. We're away at Raoul's Verona. In the one game we've played since we saw you last against Napoli, we did our usual of going a goal down early, a lumped ball forward, a header down, and they raced through and finished. Pretty standard for us, but fortunately Fair was able to equalise for us, and we looked reasonable against Napoli in yet another tactical shape. We've made some changes to our pressing and our marking based on the comments from our previous videos, but now we've got to bounce in today's game against Verona, and then after it's finished, we're going to whisk you back to the training camp where there are some big things to discuss. So Verona should be, on paper, a good team to play. Their form is as bad as us. They've not won in the last 5. They've lost their last 3. And Fair gets us off to an ideal start. We've changed our formation a little bit and some of our roles. Fair is back playing as a number 10, as a shadow striker behind a lone frontman. And you can see with this ball through from the midfield, he managed to race onto it from his shadow striker spot. He had a lot of players around him. He took it early. He struck it past the keeper. Our task today is not made any easier by the fact that 2 of our players, including our only real decent centre-half, have gone off to the African Cup of Nations. They could be missing for 2, 3, potentially even 4 weeks. So we're going to have to do without them. And we are into another highlight with half an hour just about to come onto the clock. If we could steal the ball and go up the other end and score a second, it would be the most dominant first half performance I can remember us having. As normally, we're a goal down on the 30-minute mark, not a goal up. We need to win some headers here. Obviously, we don't. We're very weak in the air. A lot of the chances that we concede are aerial ones. I was looking back at the last episode, and as well as chances conceded where they're running in behind our back 4, which we've taken some measures to try and address, we also concede a lot of goals from defensive set plays, particularly the corners, where we are just being beaten in the air. We've got the same defensive corner routines as we've had at previous clubs where we were strong defensively from set plays, but unfortunately at Sampdoria, it is not the case. However, with 38 minutes played, we're coming forward again. Jesper Karlsson out on the right side is unfortunately offside, and we're now looking at going into the interval just a goal up against a Verona team that are bereft of confidence. We've played pretty well, but I always feel with this side like we need a second goal. A rarity for us, we had a pretty much full sweep of decent performances in the first half, although early in the second half, Verona have won themselves a corner, which we've managed to hack clear, all the way to Perez on the halfway line. He's back, by the way, a spell out injured, but our pacey striker is back in the side. He, of the bravery of 1, is now leading the front line. I think as we race towards 66 minutes, it's time to get some fresh players onto the pitch. So Verona have themselves a set play again. They've done a lot of the pressing recently, and Dahlberg has had to save low down to his right to keep us at 1-0. Although now we're coming forward on the break. We've got Torsby rampaging forward, a ball-winning midfielder now for him. And again, we've got these scary high balls that we've got to try and deal with defensively. Once we finish this game, it's straight on the team bus, back to Genoa, straight to the training ground. We've got some big things to discuss with you. I may have messed things up a little bit, and I might need you to try and bail us out and decide where we go from here. It's all got a little bit political behind the scenes, but on the pitch, we've still got a job to do in this game. We are slipping closer and closer down to that relegation zone. If we pause and get the tables up on screen, this win will put us on 24 points, but if Verona were to turn this around in the final 10 minutes, we could just be 4 points or fewer ahead of the teams in the drop zone. And our goal when we came to Sampdoria was to try and make sure that we preserved their Serie A status. A difficult task. They only stayed up on the last game of last season on goal difference. They climbed out of the relegation zone on that last day by winning 1-0 at Spezia. and we've not strengthened since, and they're all another year older. Our final change, I think, is to make Perez, who's been struggling with injuries, and we don't want to test him too much. We're going to rotate him out. We're going to bring on Mikel, who really has not been the striker that we hoped he would be this season. And we have got, 3 minutes plus stoppage time left in this away tie. Torsby's on the ball in midfield. Here is Mikel. He's given it to Fair, who's looked decent this afternoon, although he is very inconsistent. We've gone out to Vignato playing as a wide midfielder now. He's crossed in. Their keeper has saved that pretty comfortably. And these are the aerial balls that we rarely win. Once again, we've jumped underneath it. Morrow may well have elbowed his man, and he has got dismissed. We're so vulnerable from these high balls, and we don't have any substitutions left here either. Now we've been reduced to 10 men. We're just trying to hold on. We've got 5 minutes of stoppage time that we need to navigate in order to get out of Verona with a victory. Mikel is now the lone frontman. We've dropped the number 10. We've played him in central midfield, and our wonderful dinked effort hits the woodwork. That could have sealed it for us. Instead, we've got a free kick to our opponents. Dalberg has been good today. Not something I would say about him in every fixture that we've had, but we are under a little bit of pressure now. Vignato might be able to break for us. He's played in Mikel. He's got a lot of defenders to beat, and he can't even hold on to the ball. And now our opponents are in again. We need a last-ditch tackle here. Okay, we've managed to send them back, but they are crossing into the box again. It looks like another set play that we've got to defend. Dalberg should be able to see out the game here. 15 seconds to go. No rush. We've got full time wasting on. He's motionless. He's going to take the booking if necessary. He's winding down the clock. Has it crashed? No, it hasn't. He's off. And it's such a poor goal kick at the end of it that he still presented a chance to Verona. And they really could have equalised right at the death. What was Dalberg doing? He was perfect in his time wasting, but then he kicked it straight to the attacker. He didn't even reach the halfway line with his kick. We've managed to get a win, not made easier by the sending off. But everybody, quick shower, onto the team bus. We've got to get back to the training ground. We need to show you what's been going on behind the scenes. So before we get to the big news, I think we need to explain the backstory a little bit. We're coming off the back of a 2-week winter break in Italy that took us into the new year. As soon as we hit January, I started having a little think about whether it might be a good idea to start trying to get next season's employers lined up now, just in case we get sacked in the second half of the Serie A season and do damage to our reputation. So I went into the job centre. There were a couple of very big clubs without a manager. I applied for one of them and they asked us for an interview. And at the interview, they asked the question, when do you intend to take over the job? That's a pretty common question when you're applying for jobs in the second half of the season. But there was a problem. There was some little glitch, and even though they asked me the question about when I'd like to take over, there was only one option to choose from, which was to take over straight away. And I couldn't backtrack my way out of the interview, so I just clicked, well, I'll take over now if you want, because I didn't think this club would even make us an offer, given the predicament we've got ourselves into with Sampdoria. The only trouble is, they've come back, and they have made us an offer. So we could, if we wish, jump out of Sampdoria and go and take on a new challenge for the final 6 months of this season before moving on again. And I'm going to leave you in charge of what we do. I'm going to put a poll down in the communities tab where you can vote to either stay and see out the season with Sampdoria and try and keep them in Serie A, or we could, for the final 6 months, jump over to Fenerbahce, who've come in and made us an offer on £14,000 a week. And what makes this job worthy of consideration is that they are not completely out of the title race. They are lagging behind a little, which is why they've dispensed with the services of their manager, but they are 7 points behind top of the table Besiktas, and Fenerbahce are still in the Turkish Cup as well. They've reached the latter stages of it. They've not been on a terrible run of form, to be honest, but these losses, I think, have meant that they've dispensed with the services of their previous coach. In fact, maybe they just moved on. Let's have a little look. They have, in fact, sacked their last manager, so he has gone, but they have now got that vacancy, and they are 6th in the top flight in Turkey. It looks like in a 34-game season, they've still got 15 games to go. What a storyline it could be if we were to jump in there and steer them to the title. Clearly, a title that they've not won in an awful long time, but we've also got the cup to go for as well. But there is still the battle to take on at Sampdoria, where that victory against Verona keeps them below us in the table and means that we are now 7 points clear of Cremonese down in 18th. Maybe we're looking up the table. I mean, we are only 7 points away from 6th place Lazio. And Lazio, by the way, are also the team that we will be facing shortly in the Italian Cup. If we could get through that tie, it would put us into the last 8 of the competition. Although the Milan clubs are still in there, they could be tricky opponents. Roma are still in there, and they could be a tough team to beat, as could Atalanta. But you never know, we could try and win a Coppa Italia with Sampdoria. So the choice is going to be up to you. Would you like to see another 6 months where we stay in Sampdoria and try and live up to our promise? Or would the true mercenary in us prefer to go over to Turkey in a gamble where we have 6 months to try and win silverware before we move on again in the summer? Head over to the communities tab, cast your vote. I'm going to give it until tomorrow morning, and then I'm going to use the poll results to decide what to do next. And by Friday's episode, we're either going to be playing our first game as Fenerbahce boss, or we're going to be looking at a cup tie with Sampdoria to see if we can win silverware in Italy.